Welcome to the Bible Prophecy Shop, the symbolism of creation, day 7, the day to rest from all your labor. I'm sure you've heard the expression working for the weekend, and I'm even more sure that you felt like it a time or two. I mean, who doesn't love a day off, right? But creation, day 7, is also the day of completeness. All previous days lead up to the seventh day, each one building upon the other. Day 7 was the enjoyment of all things coming together in its desired and perfect result. You could say it was the reason for everything that came before it. Day 7 was also the only day given a name, the Sabbath. In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, we read about the conclusion of God's creative work. On the seventh day, God rested from all his labor and sanctified that day as holy. But what does this day symbolize beyond a simple rest from work? First, let's read it. Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Now, the two main elements of the Sabbath are described here. One, it's a day of rest. Two, it's a holy day. It's a day that marks the completion of creation, but there's more to it than that. Day 7 introduces the concept of rest, not because God was tired and needed a break, but as a model for us, his creation, to follow. It's an invitation to enter into his rest, to find peace and contentment in his presence. And that is what human history is heading towards, where mankind can be brought into the fullness of God's rest and complete peace once and for all. When we observe the Sabbath, we observe a continual reminder of God's plan and covenant with us. Furthermore, the sanctification of the seventh day as holy underscores its significance in the rhythm of creation. Just as God set apart this day, he calls us to set apart time to stop our labor and enjoy the fruit of that labor. It's a reminder that our lives are not just about toil and labor, but also about spiritual connection and growth. Remember, in ancient Israel, each new day began at sunset. We should also remember that it was at the end of the sixth day, just before Sabbath began, that as Jesus hung on the cross, he said, "It is finished." The work of salvation was finished. He was removed from the cross. Then the Sabbath began. All the work of Jesus has led up to this moment in order to afford us the complete peace and fullness of rest that is knowing that our sins have been paid for. Even in death, Jesus observed the Sabbath. All of God's work in creation, all the work of Jesus, all of God's work throughout all the epochs of human history to bring mankind back to himself, all lead up to a complete fulfillment of creation's original intended purpose, mankind walking intimately with God. That is what makes this day so holy above all others. One of the most profound aspects of creation, day 7, is its foreshadowing of the ultimate rest, the Sabbath rest promised to God's people. In the New Testament, we find references to this rest in Hebrews chapter 4. Where it's presented as a rest that believers are invited to enter into through faith. Hebrews 4, 9 through 11. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter into that rest, so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. This Sabbath rest isn't just about physical rest from work, but it's a rest for our souls, a rest from striving, from anxiety, from the burdens of life. It's a foretaste of the eternal rest that awaits us in God's presence. The first taste of this spiritual rest comes as Satan is bound for 1,000 years. This 7,000-year epoch of human history will be rest from the work of the devil. Yet, the final judgment is still yet to come. So if the Sabbath is so important, then how do we observe it? If we're going to talk about the Sabbath, we must answer this question. We just talked about what the Sabbath is. It is the seventh day, not just any day we choose to rest and maybe go to church. The seventh day is the day that God chose to be the Sabbath. Also, God called us to honor the Sabbath in Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. It says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall do your labor and all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." This commandment is a day we are called to honor God's holiness and sovereign authority by keeping this day the way he determined we keep it. Whether we do that or not directly shows our conscious decision to honor God or not honor him. It's the outward sign of us following the first 3 commandments. As it says, faith without works is dead. Please remember that following God and honoring God is not about achieving perfection. It's about consciously doing the best you can in whatever given circumstances you may be in. If you make a commitment to do your best, God will lead you and help you to do it. It's a journey. God's grace is sufficient for those who seek him. For me, it's been a process. You'd think that simply resting for a day would be easy, but it's not always. It seems the more I seek to live the true intended spirit of the Sabbath, the more I realize how far I am from it. Perhaps this is one of the Sabbath's many lessons for us. Perhaps setting aside a day to reflect and to focus on this very thing is so that God can begin to drive a wedge between us and the world. And by doing so, he solidifies the bond between us and him in a way that would otherwise be impossible. All the days of creation, including the seventh day, now brings us to the 8th day prophecy, the day of new beginnings. It is that day that we will truly begin to live within God's rewards, beginning a new work without sin, entering into a new reality of living. Join me in the final episode, the symbolism of the days of creation, day 8, as we explore the 8th day prophecy. When mankind comes full circle into God's presence and God's intended purpose for mankind, don't miss it. The link will be right here when available. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. I hope you found it as enlightening and inspiring as I did. Till next time, may you find rest in the loving arms of our Creator. Take care and God bless.